passage. Whoops. Oh. Let me just erase this. Okay. Alright. This passage is from the preface to a 1997 book by a United States journalist detailing a disagreement between doctors and family members and about a child's medical treatment at a hospital in California. It's always important to read the blurb in italics before a passage because it gives you more context, because all these paragraphs are just excerpts from other books and you don't have enough time to read the entire book. So if you read the teeny passage in italics, it can give you a more complete picture. Under my desk, I keep a large carton of cassette tapes. Though they have been transcribed, I still like to listen to them from time to time. Some are quiet and easily understood. They are filled with the voices of American doctors, interrupted occasionally by the clink of a coffee cup or a beep of a pager. The rest, more than half of them, are very noisy. They are filled with the voices of the Lee's family, Hmong refugees from Laos, who came to the United States in 1980, against the background of babies crying, children playing, doors slamming, dishes clattering, a television yammering, and an air conditioner wheezing. I can hear the mother's voice by turns breathy, nasal, gargly, or hum-like as it slides up and down the Hmong language's 8 tones, the father's voice louder, slower, more vehement, and my interpreter's voice, mediating in Hmong and English, low and deferential in each. The hubbub summons sense memories, the coolness of the red metal folding chair, reserved for guests, that was always set up when I arrived into the apartment, the shadows cast by the amulet that hung from the ceiling and swung in the breeze on its length of grocer's twine, the taste of the Hmong food. I sat on the Lee's red chair for the first time on May 1988. Earlier that spring I had come to Merced, California, because I had heard that there were some misunderstandings at the county hospital between its Hmong patients and medical staff. One doctor called them collisions, which made it sound as if 2 different kinds of people had rammed into each other, head-on, to the accompaniment of squealing brakes and breaking glass. As it turned out, the encounters were messy but rarely frontal. Both sides were wounded, but neither side seemed to know who had hit it or how to avoid another crash. I have always felt that the action most worth watching occurs not the center of things but where the edges meet. I like shorelines, weather fronts, international borders. These places have interesting frictions and incongruities, and often if you can stand at the point of tangency, you can see both sides better than if you were standing at the middle of either side. This is especially true when the opposition is cultural. When I first came to Merced, I hoped that the culture of American medicine, about which I knew little, and the culture of the Hmong, about which I knew nothing, would somehow illuminate each other if I could position myself between the two and manage not to get caught in the crossfire. But after getting to know the Lees and their daughter's doctors, and realizing how hard it was to blame anyone, I stopped analyzing the situation in such linear terms. Now when I play the tapes late at night, I imagine what they would sound like if I could splice them together so the voices of the Hmong and those of the American doctors could be heard on a single tape, speaking a common language. Wow, that was actually an interesting passage. So this passage, I guess, was written by a third party, not from the Hmong refugees or the doctors, but someone who is not belonging to either of these groups, and he was trying to analyze why they were in conflict, because maybe the doctors weren't giving them proper treatment, or maybe the refugees were not following a certain protocol. I have no idea, but this person was trying to understand both sides, and as much as he was trying not to get caught into the emotion of both sides, he inevitably did. So so let's look at line 17. Line 17, summons most nearly means. So yes, let's just look at line 17 instead of me giving a theory about how to choose the answer. The hubbub summons sense memories. Okay, the hubbub, what is the hubbub? The hubbub is it's the like, it's all the discussions in the cassette tapes that's very hard to understand because people are interrupting each other, people are talking over each other. So it's not the most, I don't know what the word is. It's legible for writing, but what is it for audio? Regardless, that's what the hubbub is talking about. And then the hubbub summons sense memories. So it evokes these sense memories. So some other words that could replace summons are evokes, calls upon. Yes, so let's just look at which choices. Summons most nearly means sends for, calls forth, requests, orders, convenes. Okay, convenes means like calling upon. Convenes is when a group meets. So this is not the right choice. Oh, I'm still on eraser. Orders? No. They're not at a restaurant. Requests? Nope. Calls forth? Yes. B is the correct choice. Sends forth? No. Okay, it can be inferred from lines 27 to 33 that collisions was not an apt description because... So let's look at 27 to 33. One doctor called them collisions, which made it sound as if two different kinds of people had rammed into each other head-on to the accompaniment of squealing brakes and breaking glass. As it turned out, the encounters were messy but rarely frontal. Both sides were wounded, but neither side seemed to know who had hit it or how to avoid another crash. So the reason why collisions wasn't a proper term is because it evokes an image of two cars colliding, and when two cars collide, the drivers both know who's responsible. It was either the other driver or the driver, or the first initial driver, or the driver who got hit. So, but in this quote unquote collision, or in this conflict between the refugees and the doctors, it says specifically here, both sides were wounded like a car crash. But what was different was that neither side seemed to know who had hit it. So this is where the difference is, or how to avoid another crash. In a car crash, you can typically reflect what happened and try to analyze it and say how the incident can be repeated, but in this conflict, that was not the case. So the clash between the Hmong patients and the medical staff was indirect and baffling. Hmong patients and the medical staff were not significantly affected by the encounters. This is false, because it says that both sides were wounded. Medical staff was not responsible for the dissatisfaction of the Hmong patients. That it nowhere mentions that. Misunderstandings between the Hmong patients and the medical staff were easy to resolve. Nope, because if you can't understand how it happened, then it's hard to fix it. Disagreement reached beyond particular individuals to the community at large. Yes, there is a hint of disagreement, but it's important not to overanalyze it and overstretch what the passage mentions. So, in nowhere in that paragraph or even in the passage does it mention that the conflict expanded past the participants. So A is the correct choice. It was baffling because they couldn't understand how it happened or what caused it, and it was between the two groups. So that is true. Which of the following views of the conflict is best supported by the lines 37 to 40? So let's read 37 to 40. These places have interesting friction and incongruities, and often if you can stand at the point of tangency, you can see both sides better than if you were in the middle of either. One. Okay, so let's look at which of the following views of conflict is best supported by that. So we have to see which of these choices match up with that phrase. Efforts to prevent conflicts are not always successful. Okay, that doesn't... There's probably got to be better choices. Conflicts can occur in many guises. In most conflicts, both parties are to blame. You can understand two parties that have resolved their conflicts better than two parties that are currently in conflict. You can learn more about two parties in conflict as an observer than as an involved participant. Okay, this is the most correct choice, obviously, because it has the most to do with what they were mentioning. If you can instead of standing, if these are two parties fighting, it's better. I know that you guys probably understood what the passage meant, but just to show it pictorially, it's better to stand on both sides so you can understand both sides more easily because you're not too far from either one, as opposed to standing on one side and completely being biased or something. Okay? And so it's better to be the observer than the participant, which is this guy, or the other guy. Okay, so E is the correct choice. Let's move on to question 13. Okay, I'm gonna stop the video.